Verdict Form B. We, the jury, find the defendant Daniel Villegas not guilty of...
This is Michael Madison, an American serial killer. The whole drama unfolded during a courtroom hearing in Cleveland on June 2nd, 2016. In a suspenseful courtroom moment, the victim's heartbroken father unexpectedly erupted in wrath and lunged at the famed serial killer, Michael Madison. Everyone in the room was on the edge of their chairs as the tension in the room increased, and they all wanted to know what would happen following this dramatic confrontation. Michael Madison was convicted of the heinous murders of 3 women, Angela Deskins, Shatisha Sheely, and Sherelda Terry. Following his conviction, he was sentenced to death by a jury for his horrific acts. But what occurred before the hearing stunned everyone in the room. Van Terry, the grief-stricken father of Sherelda Terry, was given the opportunity to address the court and express his family's immeasurable loss. As Mr. Terry poured out his heart, he made a powerful statement, saying,
"Right now, I guess we're supposed to, in our hearts, forgive this clown who's touched our families, taken my child."
During this statement, Van Terry glanced at Michael Madison and, to his disbelief, saw the serial killer smirking at him. The audacity of this act of cruelty was too much for Mr. Terry to bear. Overwhelmed by rage and grief, he impulsively leaped over the defense table, aiming to confront Madison himself. Panic broke out in the courtroom, setting off panic sirens. Terry was able to grab Madison's face and throat, causing chaos to erupt. Madison smirked chillingly in the face of the father's suffering as sheriff's deputies battled to detain Mr. Terry. However, the order was restored after a 15-minute break, and Mr. Terry was removed from the courtroom. Surprisingly, no charges were brought against him. Meanwhile, the jury's decision stood, and Judge Nancy R. McDonnell accepted the jury's recommendation of the death penalty for Michael Madison over a life sentence without the possibility of parole.
Of course of conduct, felony murder, kidnapping, felony murder, rape, of which the defendant was convicted, outweigh the mitigating factors by proof beyond a reasonable doubt.
Now, let's take a look at another true story that will capture your attention and have you on the edge of your seat. This is Alan McCarty Jr. from Milton. He was sentenced to 20 years in prison for threatening to kill Circuit Judge Stacia Warren after she ruled against him in a child custody case. Now, this courtroom drama unfolded back in August of 2018 in Florida.
"Where's your Judge Warren at? You gonna bring that bitch out in handcuffs and I'm gonna execute that son of a bitch right in the street,"
said Alan McCarty Jr. During the trial, McCarty let loose a torrent of profanity-laced rants, throwing curses and racial slurs at the judge and an associate state attorney. The court also warned McCarty of using duct tape to mute his disruptive behavior as the situation deteriorated.
You f***ing back room.
Suck my d***.
No.
I'm not standing.
Stop resisting.
I'm not resisting. I'm just not
Stand
standing.
up.
I'm not standing. I don't have to stand.
McCarty was eventually removed from the courtroom by dragging him as he refused to walk on his own. But he resumed his verbal rant from another room through one-way glass. He even used vulgar words to disparage his own public defender, Ryan Belanger. In addition to his threatening behavior, McCarty had earlier offered to perform an oral sexual act on the judge, which inflamed the issue. As a result, Judge Foxman sentenced this offense to an additional 10-day term. Judge Foxman, who had warned McCarty about using duct tape to silence him, addressed the defendant's claims of asthma and worry for his safety. The court, however, stood steadfast in its verdict, declaring that McCarty's conduct was inappropriate. R.J. Larissa, the state attorney general, expressed satisfaction with the 20-year sentence, emphasizing that it would give McCarty enough time to consider the gravity of his threats against Judge Warren and the entire court system. This is Jacob Larson, a man who became obsessed with a former classmate, believing she was his soulmate.
Tase his ass right now.
In Michigan, a judge had had enough of a defendant who wouldn't stop arguing with him. Losing patience, the judge jumped off his seat and took his robe off in a rage, rushing to assist in restraining the defiant man who resisted being handcuffed. What made the judge so enraged that he had to remove his robe and rush toward the defendant? Let's see. Larson went too far by stalking her on Facebook and even paying a visit to her employer, causing her to get a restraining order against him. Despite a judge admonition to stay away, Larson disobeyed the order and continued to harass her, sending 22 Facebook messages. Judge McBain became more enraged with Larson's rude behavior during a court hearing.
Hey, you know what? You got a bad attitude. You had a bad attitude last time you were in court. You were even referencing discussions about my own daughter.
McBain became furious when Larson stopped the judge and accused him of favoring the woman. He brought up Larson's previous bad behavior in court, even bringing up nasty remarks Larson made about the judge's own daughter. He continued being disruptive despite several warnings, forcing McBain to sentence him to 45 days in jail. Larson, on the other hand, answered with crude language, which enraged the judge even more. Larson's sentence was increased by McBain to 93 days.
45 days county jail. Okay. 93 days in the county jail. You want to go for a year? Try it right now.
Larson continued to argue and refused to be arrested as tensions rose, even confronting his accuser in court. This pushed Judge McBain over the edge, prompting him to remove his robe and intervene in Larson's fight with the court officer. Concerned about the safety of everyone involved, McBain called for Larson to be tased, but fortunately, it wasn't necessary. The judge made it clear that he would not tolerate disruptions in his courtroom, describing Larson's behavior as disturbing. Let's delve into another gripping, real-life courtroom drama that will keep you captivated by its twists and turns. This is Cody Howard and Tanner Jacobson, two convicts who were facing a 30-day jail sentence for driving with a suspended license. The courtroom incident happened in Washington State in 2018.
Well, if they're that desperate, what are they going to do once they get into the public hallway, public stairwell, out the door? You know, they're desperate. I don't know what was going on, so I wanted to at least find out where they were going.
Judge R.W. Buzzard. Little did they know their fleeting taste of freedom would turn into a self-inflicted blow. When the perfect moment seemed to appear, these two inmates decided to take fate into their own hands and bolt from the courtroom, unleashing a daring escape that would ultimately come crashing down on them.
We were sitting there on the benches together, and he's like, I'm gonna run.
I said, what am I doing? What did I just do? I gotta go with it now. There's nothing, I can't stop right here. There's nothing I can do now. I'm screwed.
Howard and Jacobson rushed from the Lewis County courtroom while still in handcuffs and wearing enormous orange shower sandals. They dashed through the corridors, quickly descending many flights of stairs and kicking open a fire exit that opened outside. Without hesitation, Judge R.W. Buzzard stripped off his black robe in rage and chased them along the corridors. It was an unusual sight to watch a judge pursuing escaping inmates. Howard's sandals, though, proved to be an obstacle. In the hallway right outside the courthouse, he tripped and fell flat on his face. Meanwhile, Judge Buzzard maintained his pursuit as Howard swiftly regained his footing. Jacobson, on the other hand, managed to slip by Howard. They both took the stairway down many levels. Howard was successfully captured at the exit door by the judge, but Jacobson was apprehended a few blocks away by deputies. Both Jacobson, 22, and Howard, 28, were charged with felony second-degree escape as a result of their failed escape attempt. Last but not least, we have a heartwarming story for you. This is Daniel Villegas. Imagine spending 18 years in prison for a crime that you did not commit. He was only 16 years old when he was arrested in El Paso, Texas. Allegedly, a detective forced him to confess to the crimes. In case of non-compliance, the detective threatened him with beatings and a death penalty. Daniel had no other option but to sign the confession that the officer had prepared. He was ultimately charged with 2 counts of capital murder. Despite a couple of retrials, he was repeatedly considered guilty because of the false confession. The verdict was finally thrown out.
The state of Texas versus Daniel Villegas. Verdict Form B. We, the jury, find the defendant Daniel Villegas not guilty of... You are no longer under any conditions. You are free to leave. Thank you.
In this clip, we can see Daniel's family members screaming with joy as the jury announces the verdict. This has become one of the most watched court moments on the internet. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, please remember to hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and we'll see you in the next video.